for the goat god, Pan, was faunus, because he was the god of the animals.
Whatever those things are. So in totality and even in just day-to-day steps, you want that. And LeBron is fulfilling that goal. Let's be real about who LeBron is. His
little daughter's so cute, though. Poor girl, she got a forehead just like a daddy.
A child star who wasn't allowed to capitalize on his success early because of the times. He was ahead of his time. Be real. LeBron's on ESPN. LeBron is already getting this.
LeBron's driving a Hummer and well taken.
And they have to show the little girl leading the pack. She's leading everyone.
And based on his value at that time, he was getting played.
Well taken.
That's my point. So LeBron is now sitting there like, hey,
that little girl there is Chris Paul's daughter. Let me wind this back just a little bit. Right here, you see the cute little dark-skinned black girl to the right? That's Chris Paul's daughter. She also is embracing the energy of Flora. She has the flower wreath. I'll be delving into this a bit more in the epilogue.
Hey, I was at 16 and I got this much. But now I know what that really looks like in terms of...
There she is on the checkerboard floor again. Once again, the reason why in the intro for her little channel, she's passing beyond the checkerboard floor and emerging through the doorway is because she represents the proverbial mother goddess, the Sirius star, but in her youthful altar as Flora, the goddess of fertility and vegetation.
I can do with platform and amplify that.
See the flower theme and the plant theme? Let me wind it back just a little bit. Once again, this is LeBron James's daughter with Chris Paul's daughter. Both LeBron and Chris Paul are Luciferians. I did a video a long time ago for those of you cats who've been on my channel for a while and watch most of my videos. I did a video, I believe it was called Chris Bosh Agrees with Chronicles of Judah 144. And I delved into the notion that they were engaging in spouse swapping because Chris Paul was spotted out on a date with Savannah James.
So here's the example. Y'all have ever seen Ryan Toy's review on YouTube? Bruh. That 8-year-old dude that's making $26 million a year. And let me tell you why that's important. Because in today's times, this is the same world where Toys R Us are going out of business.
Well, let me say this about what Marcellus Wiley is stating, especially about that little boy making all that damn money. Once again, for you brothers out there, it's never been easier to make money than today. You just have to know what you're gifted at, what you're talented at, and be willing to believe in yourself and stick to a plan, be disciplined, and you will make what you love monetizable.
But then there's someone who's capitalizing on that same marketplace by doing it this way. LeBron has come to the calculation, my children can maximize who they are by letting them have their brand and platform be exposed. Now, as long as he continues to be the father he is and guide and control them in these situations till they get to their own level of understanding, this is a beautiful thing. I like it, and I have no problem with it. I have a 7-year-old daughter. I have a 5-year-old son. They're on YouTube a lot. This is what's happening.
Right, but are they making videos, TJ Hushmanzada? Did you go to your 5-year-old and say, we're going to create a YouTube channel for you? Like, come on. LeBron really wants people to believe that his daughter came to him and said, Daddy, I want to have a YouTube channel. No, he came to her.
New generation. It's YouTube. It's social media. Yeah. LeBron is building a family empire. Yeah. And that's okay.
It is okay from a 2-dimensional perspective, but from a 3-dimensional perspective, we'll see where things go. I cannot control what I see because I understand how these people operate. So, yes, it's a great thing for LeBron James to have various channels of finance or currency coming in. But at the same time, this was all pre-planned. There's a reason why as soon as he comes out to LA, all of a sudden, the movies and the TV shows start amplifying. Of course, he had those things before that. But now his son and his daughter are all over the internet and social media. He knows what he's doing. And he is a firmly embedded adherent to the esoteric principles, to the craft per se.
As long as they can get their kids to understand these are things that could, let's not go down this road. We're going to stay down this road. We're going to try to shield you away from certain things. On YouTube, you can disable comments. On social.
On her channel, comments are disabled, as they should be. No one should be speaking to that girl.
You can
And all
disable
the things Will
comments.
Smith and Jada did.
And
Not quite. Will Smith and Jada, I mean, Whitlock makes good points because the Smith children were put through the same programming as LeBron's children are probably going to be put through. But I'll be covering the Smith children in another video. They are deeply in the craft. They embody what are known as the twin flames, or rebus, the Adam Kadmon, or the coming together of both genders, having the head of the man and the head of the woman on one body. They're way, way out there. They're venerators of chaos. That's why Jaden Smith's album was called Eris. And of course, it's spelled in reverse of his middle name, Sire. But that's why he was given that middle name, because they believe in something known as the law of reversals, which was a concept taught by Aleister Crowley.
people that have made mistakes, you hopefully try to learn from those so you don't make those
mistakes. His kids, where they have
it was completely different.
Joe Jackson sold all his boys into the industry. I'm trying to remember which book it was. I think it was Thanks for the Memories by Bryce Taylor, where she states that that Michael Jackson and the rest of the Jackson 5 were ritualistically raped right before their performance on Ed Sullivan.
Jackson needed the money. LeBron doesn't need the money. The Ryan Toy review. He's making more than 90% of guys in the NBA.
TJ, he just can't get over how much that little boy is making.
To happiness.
I think it's really dangerous. I just do. I don't think it's a great idea. And look, she's adorable, and I'm sure the content will be adorable. I would love to be totally inoffensive, and to be LeBron and his wife portraying themselves as the perfect American family.
I see what you did there. LeBron and his wife portraying themselves as the perfect American family. Why did he say that? Because a lot of these guys who are in the media world, they hear stories about what's really going on with the LeBron James family. They know about things that I just speak on based on my perspective from afar. Most likely that LeBron James and Savannah James have an open marriage, an open relationship, and they engage in the whole spouse swapping thing. Like, these guys know a lot of shit that they can't say on TV. And of course, everything I'm saying is alleged.
There's nothing wrong with the perfect American, African-American family in Los Angeles coming from nothing and making it. It's just, you know, again, it's just a super dangerous thing. I have twin daughters that are 13 years old. And I'm telling you, the moment we gave them Instagram was the moment they suddenly became happy and unhappy. Because you see your friends doing stuff that you have FOMO, right? You moved from Connecticut, you see them getting together, your new friends, you think of your friends, they're hanging out with other friends. YouTube obviously is different, and I do understand the family empire, but the empire is already built.
No, it's not built. You can.
Yeah, there's no such thing as an empire already built. Their mentality is there's always room for one more dollar in the bank account.
Always add on and continue to build. Always think that poor only can become rich. How about rich become richer? Of course. How about the Walton family saying in there we're the richest empire because we shared it with our whole family?
I get it, but
I agree. That's just a bad argument that they already have enough money. It's not really anyone's business to tell LeBron James how much money should satisfy him. That's why the tact and the perspective that I take is the three-dimensional perspective, the Luciferian perspective. Because it's LeBron James' job actually to make sure that he puts himself and his children in the best position to be wealthy.
not everyone.
What's the win?
Not everyone defines themselves by their paycheck and by how much money they acquire. It just there are just as many unhappy, unhealthy, unadjusted, super wealthy people as there are the working poor, working class.
So why be broke if you're going to be the same person?
It's not going to be broke. It's not be broke.
Hold on. Broke is not just the fact that what we have, is what have I contributed to our growth. What if the little girl said, Daddy, I want to do X?
I don't believe that, bro. I'm sorry. That's a huge leap. And if for you to make a point, you have to create this supposition that a 5-year-old girl came to LeBron and said, I want to form a YouTube channel. I seriously doubt that. I'm sorry. Just stick with the other tack that you were taking, that is really nobody's business to tell LeBron James how much money he should consider enough. Stick with that.
And guess what? So support at 5 years old. Do you have a 5-year-old? I got a 4-year-old.
So look, this is what happens.
They know what they like.
He sees how involved he is with his sons. So he wants to, I want to do that. So as a father, you're going to do.
I can't.
We all want.
All of this is hypothetical. I do not believe that Zhuri James went to her pops and said, I want to start my own YouTube channel. And he just decided to announce it on December 25th. And the channel starts on January 1st. All of it is based in the adherence to numerology and its association with the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. The young girl is proverbial Sirius or Sirius, the dog star, Isis or Aset. And in her youthful altar, and with her association with plant life, she is Flora, the goddess of youth and fertility. Flora is also a quote-unquote goddess that gets commemorated. You'll see her get commemorated later this year in late April. What this society calls Earth Week is actually for the mother goddess. I mentioned this before, Gaia or Flora or what have you. From late April all the way through May 1st, May 2nd. And when you study Flora, she also had a festival from late April up until May 2nd or May 3rd, I believe.
Kids, everything. You can't give them everything
we
they
all
want.
them to be
And
successful.
I want to go back to Marcellus' original
That's a
point.
great point, by the
You
way.
can't give kids everything they want, but Marcellus made the point about parents want to see their kids do it better than they did, and whatever that it is. And so LeBron's it is fame and being in the public spotlight. My father's was running a nightclub in the inner city and being very popular with women. My mother was a factory worker. And again, my parents wanted me and my brother to do something far more meaningful and significant and more pleasing than being a factory worker or running a nightclub in the inner city. There are people out here, and LeBron's not one of them, and maybe you guys aren't one of them. There's far more significant things to aspire to than being famous.
Hold on. LeBron's it is not fame. It's not getting it.
No, actually, it is fame, Marcellus. You need to stop, brother. Because without fame, LeBron would not understand or care to understand who he is as a person. LeBron's entire validation is based on being recognized by people. And he's one of those people who gets off on rejecting people who recognize him. He wants to be recognized so that he can have the power to reject. Someone like Michael Jordan, he does not even want to be recognized. Michael Jordan could go the rest of his life and not have anybody say shit to him. He's good. But LeBron feeds off of that.
Exploited at this age. First of all, his kids are already in a position where they're not going to be normalized.
You're raising your kids not to be exploited. That's the goal.
Hold on, that's not the goal. That is the medium in which they're going to use. YouTube is not our goal. When you get filmed, do you understand that is a one-way transmission, me to you, and then you're just recording this? Those cameras don't come with poisons. Those cameras don't come with the issue.
No, that's not true. The camera actually does come with poison. The poison is look at me. Especially as she walks through the street and she starts to get noticed. She's not just going to stay in that house her whole life, Marcellus Wiley. She is going to go outside. She is going to have to interact with children. That's how you know that she's being prepped for bigger things. She's going to be introduced into the acting world or into the music world at some point in time, or both.
You can't actually protect the kid from social media. Bronny James was not on Instagram until he was at a certain age.
Last year.
Yeah, last year. He protected him because he knew. Why don't we respect fully that LeBron is actually doing this with a calculated response?
Oh, there's no question about that. He's definitely calculated in what he's doing with his children. It's just, what is the end game?
Better just, hey,
Have you seen LeBron's son do an interview?
have you seen LeBron get in trouble? Has
Shield him.
LeBron been in trouble?
Let's start with Bronny.
That's not-
He has done a great job with Bronny in terms of his dad's acting crazy at games and high-fiving dudes and
Being a dad.
That's not what dads do.
Why? You know what's funny?
Yes, I coach
Because
games.
he's LeBron.
Just stop it. All this nonsense, LeBron just being a dad. How many dads are allowed to run out on the floor during their son's game doing front flips and having their sneakers fly off? Like, come on, man. The guy's an attention whore.
I coach games. I'm at my son's games.
Yeah,
And there are
your
dads.
sons are very excited.
Moms are worse than dads, by the way. They're
Uncles are the worst, but let's not go there.
But he has done a great, like, Bronny somehow handles it. Like, they go to Dallas, he barely plays, he doesn't pout. They go to Cleveland, when a couple kids are out, he plays.
Running out of time.
He plays well. Okay, but he has done a good job. But if you don't think that fame is fueling LeBron, Why is he acting like an uncle when he's at these games? He loves the attention, loves it, and he assumes that his daughter loves the attention as well.
Support.
That's not support.
No, it's not called support. It's called an end game. It's called a plan. So the end game for LeBron is that he's going to make sure that his children are inducted into the craft, and they're going to go up the levels. They're going to ascend up the levels in different ways.
I'll just say this. There's a lot. Look, man, my family, we love soul food. And I had a lot of support in getting to the
That's
soul food
innately
table.
bad for you.
No. Trust me. And so is fame.
No, it's
And so is fame.
Yes, it is, Marcellus Wiley. How could you say that? You know, Marcellus Wiley is one of those people who always likes to use the trump card whenever Whitlock makes any type of allusion to child rearing. Marcellus Wiley always loved to say, well, you don't have any children. How could you say this or say that? Marcellus, you just admitted that you're not famous, so how would you know how destructive fame is or isn't? We have more than enough examples of extremely famous people having breakdowns, whether it's Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince, etc.
A drug.
They're putting
Your life
It
out
is a
there.
drug.
Putting a 5-year-old's life out there to be watched and to entertain a bunch of strangers. I'm just sorry. This Joe Jackson did it to
That's
Michael
the dated
Jackson.
model, man. That's
And you
dated.
can't control who watches
We got to
it.
change the old lens. New generation.
It's a new generation. Yes, a new generation of guys that are watching on YouTube. You can't control who watches.
I just want.
Now, did you hear what Doug Gottlieb just stated? He said a new generation of guys who are watching on YouTube, you cannot control who's watching. He's alluding to the pedosexuals out there. And of course, that's something that, of course, they're probably not going to speak on a show like this. But that is a major component also of the Hollywood craft system. The notion that love, quote unquote, conquers all, and that there's no difference in a relationship between two, quote unquote, heterosexual adults and a relationship between a grown person and a child sexually. They do believe in that and they adhere to that. Once again, the quote unquote God Pan was the God of man-boy love.
My mother loves saying this, and the Bible teaches us, and the history of the world teaches. There's nothing new but the doers. Everything that we think is brand new, it's not. It's already been done.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Nimrod, or Asar/Osiris, was viewed as the first great celebrity after the flood. That's one of the reasons why he had the pseudonym of Narcissus. That term Narcissus meaning a self-worshipper. Right? He was the first great celebrity. And he admired himself to the nth degree.
Go study the history of Egypt and how technologically advanced they were and how they were able to build pyramids and things that we still can't do now.
Absolutely.
Nothing new here.
Really?
There's nothing new.
Well, let's just not pick 5 names and say those failed, and the other 50 that are nameless that are succeeding by the same thing.
You don't think it's dangerous at all?
No, if it's managed. Nope.
But anyway, that's basically it. Okay, so now, brothers, this is going to be the epilogue for the video that I've just done on Mr. LeBron James, the superstar basketball player of the LA Lakers, and his young daughter, Miss Zhuri James, who clearly is being put through the implementation of various personality alters relating to Mother Goddess archetypes, particularly in the youthful manifestation of the Mother Goddess, which normally is the case throughout Hollywood when they raise their sons and their daughters. They're raising them according to the protocol of the quote-unquote Greco-Roman pagan mythologies, which themselves are derived from the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. I'm sure that what I'm saying right now sounds very outlandish, but over the course of this epilogue, I'm going to go about trying to diligently prove my point and provide some empirical data to most of my sentiments, to all of my sentiments. That being that Miss Zhuri James is playing proverbial Flora, the youthful goddess of vegetation, of fertility, etc. In her death altar, she was known as Persephone. In her youthful cupbearing altar, she was known as Hebe, the young daughter of Zeus and Hera. LeBron James, like Kobe Bryant, like Michael Jordan, like many of the other more notable figures throughout the entertainment sphere, especially in the sports world, they have to live out a script, as do their families. And the scripts are normally an allusion to the quote-unquote mythical gods of old. That is how their sponsors get the quote-unquote fans, who themselves are basically descended from the cult worshippers of the gods of old or the heroes of old, to project that energy out towards them of idolatry and over infatuation, so on and so forth, is by tapping into that energy from antiquity. So let's get back to the point. Mr. LeBron James is raising his daughter up through the craft, and he is prepping her to be integrated into the entertainment sphere. So she has to learn the rituals. She has to learn who she should view herself as, that being the quote-unquote mother goddess of fertility in her youthful altar. So now, brothers, just to provide some context, let's get an understanding on who Flora actually is. It says here, in Roman mythology, Flora is a Sabine-derived goddess of flowers and of the season of spring, a symbol for nature and flowers, especially the Mayflower. Of course, that's an allusion to the quote-unquote ship that the Puritans came to America on, the quote-unquote Mayflower. So that lets you know that the Puritans actually were venerators of the mother goddess and the quote-unquote horned god. Most of those offshoots of the various forms of Catholicism in the 1500s and 1600s were just a very incremental way to bring mankind back to the worship of the Babylonian gods and goddesses. But they were trying to figure out a way to do it in a surreptitious way. But just getting back to the point, let me read it again. In Roman mythology, Flora is a Sabine-derived goddess of flowers and of the season of spring, a symbol for nature and flowers, especially the Mayflower. And brothers, I mentioned this in another video. I believe the video that I did on Mr. Isaac Ray, aka Miss Issa Rae. She did 2 consecutive films in which she named her character April. And that's because April is another name for the mother goddess of fertility or of the springtime. So now let's see here. It says, while she was otherwise a relatively minor figure in Roman mythology, being one among several fertility goddesses, her association with the spring gave her particular importance at the coming of springtime, as did her role as goddess of youth. So brothers, that is why LeBron James' young daughter Zhuri is constantly wearing the garlands of flowers on her head, as is Chris Paul's daughter, who's also in the craft. Chris Paul and his wife are also in the craft. Jada Paul, who's CP3's wife, is his handler. I've covered that in previous videos. I'm going to be going over that again. But his children are both being raised under the programming. So let me read it one more time. It says, while she was otherwise a relatively minor figure in Roman mythology, being one among several fertility goddesses, her association with the spring gave her particular importance at the coming of springtime, as did her role as goddess of youth. She was one of the 15 deities who had their own flamen, the Florales, one of the Flamines Minores. Brothers, the term flamen is a Roman concept of priesthood. It says here her Greek counterpart is chloris. So now, brothers, this is another blurb here that I found that should provide even greater detail and greater context into the concept that LeBron James has his daughter playing, the character that he has her playing, the ancient Roman goddess Flora, the goddess of youth. It says here, see Flora, an old Italian goddess of Sabine origin, but also much worshipped in Etruria. She seems originally to have been regarded in the same light as Flora, Libera, and Venus. So brothers, Libera, for those of you who don't know, is the goddess of the wine, or the female version of the Bacchus, because another term for Bacchus was Liber, meaning of course liberty, but also through the vine or through wine. It also says here, and Venus, so that's the goddess of lust. All of these quote-unquote mother goddesses are just different aspects of the same concept. So now just reading further, the Greeks call her a goddess of flowers. On coins, she is represented as a girl in the bloom of youth with flowers in her hair. I'm going to read this again. The Greeks called her a goddess of flowers. On coins, she is represented as a girl in the bloom of youth, meaning a little girl, young girl, with flowers in her hair. So now, brothers, this is another little blurb. It says here, her name is derived from the Latin word flos, which means flower. In modern English, flora also means the plants of a particular region or period. So now, brothers, we've already established that this mother goddess archetypal figure of Flora is a goddess of youth who's characterized by wearing flowers around her head. She's always associated with vegetation and flowers. She's also a goddess of youth or of children, meaning she's always depicted or normally depicted or aligned with a very young girl. So now, brothers, we're going to go through a series of photos showing not only LeBron James's daughter, but later on Chris Paul's daughter, playing the character of Flora. They're trying to introduce these young ladies into the Hollywood system in their youth. So they have to play this character early on. We're also going to see some other notable figures from the entertainment industry who have taken on the energy and the vibration of the quote-unquote mother goddess of fertility, Flora. So here we can see LeBron James' young daughter, Zhuri. She's posing with potted plants, and of course she's smiling. She's also right in front of their garden. All of this is for a reason. I'm not saying that the young lady does not like flowers. Maybe she's interested in horticulture or botany or what have you. Who knows? I doubt it, though. I think that she's just a young lady who might find flowers pretty. But because LeBron James and his wife, Savannah James, are knee-deep in the craft, they know how to go about building up their children. They've picked one child to try to become an NBA player, the middle child who knows what they have planned for him. But I'll say this, especially in many of these black illuministic or black boule families, they're picking one child to grow up to be a very flagrant homosexual / transgender. So I'll leave it at that with what they might have planned for the middle child. With this young lady right here, she has to personify the mother goddess energy. So now, brothers, we see the young Miss Zhuri James with the flower crown. Please keep that in mind as she's holding a very large bouquet of flowers. Once again, the picture is taken in front of the garden or right by one of the walls of the garden. They're trying to push the energy of her as a fertility goddess. Now here's another photo showing her with the little crown on her head, holding the potted plant yet again. Brothers, no little child loves flowers and plants this damn much. She's sitting here with her legs crossed. Of course, the X is for transformation, for Osiris, so on and so forth. I'm sure that there are people watching saying to themselves, no, brother, you're going a little bit too deep with this one. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Here's another photo. Very cute young girl. Unfortunately, she's being prepped by her parents for a career, a quote-unquote career, that she has to walk the path of. These children, they pretty much don't have a real say in what they're going to do. I'm sure that that might sound harsh, but it is true. Because she is playing a character. She has to play that mother goddess of fertility role. Here's another photo. You notice they're always taking photos of her surrounded by potted plants and right in front of the garden. You mean to tell me that there were no photographs that you could take of her playing with dolls in her room or playing with her brothers, playing video games? Now, if you Google it, I'm sure that you can find those photos, but the vast majority of the pictorials that you see of Miss Zhuri James are her holding plants or flowers or having a flower crown on her head. And that's why I noticed that even in the intro to her YouTube series, it opened with her walking through the double doors while she was on the checkerboard floor or the chessboard floor. Automatically, that let me know that she was playing the mother goddess, because the mother goddess must pass through the twin pillars on the checkerboard floor. She is Sirius or Sirius, Isis per se, the dog star, the great enlightening agent or deity per se, quote unquote. So this is what they're putting her through very early. Now, brothers, of course we know who this is. This is Miss Beyonce Knowles, another mother goddess archetypal figure in the entertainment industry. She's also playing Flora right here. As we can see here, she has the flowers on her head. Here's another depiction of Beyonce Knowles as Flora. This was for the Vogue photo shoot. Also notice that there's a reflection of the sunlight to the left of this photo to show her as the divine enlightener. She's the source of knowledge, the mother of knowledge per se. She's also dressed in the all white for the moon. The color white is often worn by the feminine principled deity figures in Hollywood, quote unquote, or the divine feminine figures in Hollywood, to denote them as the moon goddess. Here's another depiction of Beyonce as the quote unquote mother goddess of fertility, Flora, surrounded by the flowers, as we can see. She's nothing but an asset, Beyonce knows, and has been that way since her father brought her into the industry. Now here we can see a couple of themes being utilized. That's why I highlighted in one of the earlier photos that I showed of Beyonce knows that yes, she was adorned with the flower crown, but she also wore the all white for the moon goddess, while there was that sunlight reflecting right behind her, because they like to cast these quote unquote divine feminine figures as the mothers of knowledge. As we can see here, Beyonce has the quote unquote halo around her head to show that she's been enlightened. That's what that sun depiction on her forehead is meant to represent. She is the quote unquote mother goddess of knowledge. She is Aurora. She brought forth the great savior for the world, quote unquote. She is the virgin mother. And also, of course, the golden curtain behind her, which is also meant to symbolize her divine light, or her sunlight per se. Now here's another photo of Beyonce as the quote unquote mother goddess. Pay very close attention. She's holding her right breast, and her left breast is covered by her hair extension. She's the quote unquote goddess of fertility. She's Isis Lactans. She has the divine milk that proceeds forth from her breast, the milk representing knowledge. I did a video on Isis Lactans on my YouTube channel. Normally they will depict her as having the left breast out, because that is where the hika is, or the magical elixir, the magical milk. And also, of course, she's wearing the flower headdress with the sun rays or the sun spikes behind them. Behind the scenes, brothers, all of these people worship the mother goddess, the horn god, and the divine hermaphrodite. All of them. I'm talking about the high-level celebrities. By the time you see them on TV and they're winning awards, Oscars and Grammys and all that, they're witches who've been put through the craft. They've been put through the paces. So LeBron James is in the process of putting his young daughter Zhuri through the paces. So now, brothers, these are some relatively older depictions of the quote-unquote mother goddess of fertility or flowers, Flora. We see this Caucasian female figure here in the garden, surrounded by the flowers, also surrounded by naked children. Cupid is assisting her. Cupid is one of the personifications of the quote-unquote divine child, or the divine hermaphrodite per se. Here's another depiction of quote-unquote Flora. As we can see here, she has one of her breasts out. That one breast out look is always an allusion to the quote-unquote mother goddess Isis Lactans. She has the divine milk of knowledge in her breast. And of course, she's also wearing the flower garland, or the flower headpiece. Now, this is another depiction of Flora. This one is far more conservative. Most likely was meant to be viewed by a more conservative crowd. She does not have either one of her breasts exposed, but she still has the flower headdress. And of course, the blouse is white for the mother goddess. The skirt is yellow or gold, to once again show her as Victoria, the goddess of victory, or as the quote-unquote sun goddess, Aurora. Here's another depiction of quote-unquote Flora. Once again, we see that one breast out. Brothers, that one titty out. It's always the same thing. You'll start to notice more and more of the same themes. You'll even start to notice Many of these female celebrity figures, when they go to the Oscars or to the Grammys or to the Emmys or whatever, they'll wear that shimmering silver dress with the one shoulder out. They do that because they cannot attend those functions with the one breast out, because that would be too quote-unquote tacky or tasteless. Even though about 20 years ago, Little Kim did it. Everyone was shocked when Little Kim attended the MTV Awards with that one breast out. That was to show that she was aligned to this quote-unquote goddess right here, that she was being put through her instructions on being the personification of the quote-unquote mother goddess. Now here's a photo that I showed in the Isis Lactante video. This actually is Caesar Borgia's sister, Lucretia Borgia. A sexual degenerate, pervert, anything that you want to name. But as we can see here, she's being depicted as what? As the quote-unquote goddess Flora. And also as the Isis Lactante with that one breast out. And if we're paying really close attention, you can see that there are some masculine physical characteristics in this depiction here of Lucretia Borgia. You see the pectoral muscle leading down towards the quote-unquote breast, and the traps are more pronounced, trying to push the hermaphroditic vibe in this depiction. And of course, she also has the flower garland or the flower headband. So this is Flora. This is another depiction of Flora. And just like the previous picture that we saw, the previous painting that we saw of Lucretia Borgia, she has on the all white for the moon goddess. Also, that one breast is about to pop out. It's about to come out. So, brothers, here's the last depiction that we're going to see of one of the older painting renditions of the quote-unquote goddess Flora. And it's the same thing. Flowers, flowers everywhere, with the flowery headdress. So now, brothers, we're going to move forward in this epilogue. As we can see, this is LeBron James's young daughter, Zhuri. And the young lady to the right is Chris Paul's daughter. She's also being put through the paces, being put through the programming. She's having the quote-unquote Flora program implemented into her subconscious. She's the goddess of youth, just like Zhuri. They have on the flower crown. So, brothers, very quickly, let's touch on Chris Paul. Who exactly is he? Is he just a great basketball player? Or is he like most of the top athletes today under the MK programming? Is he a monarch athlete with a scripted fate, per se? And let's understand something. Because much is made of this concept of someone's life being scripted. Brothers, all of our lives have been scripted. All of our lives have been scripted. And I'll probably be delving deeper into that understanding in another video. But in the scriptures, it's known as predestination. It was already known what all of us were going to be before we were conceived in the womb. You understand that? So yes, these people are living scripted lives. A lot of it is based on bloodline issues, also adherence to the Luciferian principles or the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. Many of them were chosen before they were born, per se. And they've been shown great favor by the forces on the left-hand side. And that's what they adhere to. Some of them have been brought in because of potential greatness that they showed in elementary school or high school or what have you. Some of these notable figures had their parents approached before they were even born and given an offer. They were told that we can make your child a celebrity, a great athlete, great singer, or what have you, if you submit to these tests and these various protocols. Your child's going to be put under a certain amount of programming so that their genetic structure will be different from the average person. Just slightly different. It won't be that noticeable, but they'll heal faster. They'll jump higher. They'll run a bit faster. Genetic modification, things of that nature. I touched on that with LeBron James in one of these videos a very long time ago. Especially when it was brought to the forefront that he had a biochemist on staff that he was that he was utilizing to make sure that, of course, his biochemistry was how it was supposed to be, that he was spending over $2 million a year on his body, so on and so forth. All that is part of the program, is a part of the LeBron James package. But let's get back to Chris Paul.